Welcome to church on Zoom. Happy Sabbath. Of course, we know that it's Mother's Day tomorrow. So on the eve of Mother's Day, and make no mistake, I'm a big fan of Mother's Day. I'm very much in awe of God's creation and the critical role and the sheer beauty of the creation of mums and what motherhood means. But on a lighter note, I do think that the quote, God saves us from the people who mean well at times, does fit with Mother's Day. Now, some of us older generation have been through the Mother's Day stalls where we got the crocheted washers and the soap and the strangely odd looking Avon powders that looked maybe 10 years old. And we loved that as mums. And those Mother's Day stalls, I've heard they have evolved, so that's a good thing. But let me set the scene. It's Mother's Day morning. Mum is told to stay in bed. There's some rattling and crashing around in the kitchen, and she hears floating along the hallway the word pancakes. Then the questions come to the bedroom door. Mum, where's the flour? Mum, what's a spatula? Mum, how do you crack an egg? And so then that moves on to mum sitting in bed cracking eggs, mum giving instructions back down the hallway about stove safety, mum reminding dad where the maple syrup is that has been in the same place for 10 years. We love dads, but they have pantry issues, some of them. Well, they do at my place anyway. Then the beautiful surprise pancakes arrive. They're semi-warm, they're unintentionally misshapen, and they are delicious with expectation and love as people crowd around the bed and watch mum eat the pancakes. The best pancakes ever, mum says. A little bit later, mum wanders down the hall to the kitchen, and then she very quietly but surely deals with the mess on the kitchen bench, the flour on the floor, the batter-laden pyjama sleeves, the greasy pan, and the eggshells that she enjoyed, just a distant memory now in each pancake. It's all part of motherhood. Mums are a glimmer of our God because we make a mess. So he sent Jesus to put on his kitchen gloves and to get out the spray and wipe and make us clean. And our Christian life is as many pancakes as we need, and as many pancakes as we need to share with others. So on that note, happy Mother's Day, happy Sabbath, and let's enjoy our time together this morning.
What is your favourite thing about Mummy?
Cuddles.
Cuddles with Mummy. Why do you like cuddles with Mummy?
Because they're so moody and tight.
Huggy, what do you love about your mum?
I love her because when I feel sad, she makes me feel happy, and whenever I ask her to make some pizzas for dinner.
Sorry everyone, I'll just redo that one again. Sorry. It's better.
What is your favourite thing about Mummy?
Cuddles.
Cuddles with Mummy. Why do you like cuddles with Mummy?
Because they're so moody and tight.
Huggy, what do you love about your mum?
I love her because when I feel sad, she makes me feel happy, and whenever I ask her to make some pizzas for dinner or something, she makes them for me.
I love when my mum watches me on the trampoline, and when she helps me with my schoolwork. I love my mum because she... What? Okay, just do it again.
I love my mum because she gives me cuddles.
I love my mum because she gives me cuddles.
Oh, is it me now, Marianne?
Baby.
Oh, sorry.
Baby.
Now it's time for the prayer. I just want to mainly pray this morning for things that we are grateful for, because we have so much to be grateful for, even in this strange time. So please bow your heads. Father God, thanks that we can all be together in a different way this morning, and just thank you so much for all that you have given us. We all have houses that we live in that give us shelter. We have food to eat. We have beautiful sunshine. We have bush around us. We have the beach. We have family and friends. We have a church family. And most of all, we have your love. And yeah, God, we just want to thank you so much for all that you've given us and help us to focus on this at a time that's a bit more uncertain. And yeah, we are so grateful to live in Australia, and yeah, we're better off at the moment than other parts of the world. We also just want to pray for those countries that are going through a lot of suffering at the moment, Lord. And yeah, just ask that your spirit will be in those countries and with the people that are suffering. And God, today, thanks that we can hear from Bob and your word, and may your Holy Spirit just speak through him. Amen.
Good morning. Nice to see you all here. We another unusual first event. I'm sure this has never been the case for Mother's Days previously, except during the war. Maybe they may not have had some, but today we honour mothers past and present, because without mothers, much of what we have would not be. So today I would like to just give you a moment to read this statement, which I found, and we find it very pertinent, especially to our family, but also to some families who are missing their mothers. And Tamara Rice, I'm sure, went through something like that with her family as well. So today is a special Sabbath. It's the first that we haven't had our mother, had a wife and mother with us. And for those of you who also have lost mothers or grandmothers, today is a reflective day, I'm sure, for you all. So Mother's Day has been around for quite a while. In fact, in Anna Jarvis, who was the one who was credited with making Mother's Day happening in America, she lost her mother on May 9, 1905. And she thought, as time went on, she would like to be able to honour her mother in some special way. And so she arranged in her own local Methodist church to have a special day where she would speak and they would honour her mother. However, this idea caught on really fast, then became throughout Philadelphia, it became the next year. And within a few years, President Woodrow Wilson gazetted Mother's Day to be a national holiday. And it would be the second Sunday in every May. So that is the background to Mother's Day. Anna Jarvis, who was pretty particular, she decided she would have the spelling make it obvious that the spelling had something to say about Mother's Day. And so when it came to the spelling, the correct spelling is that. Now, just in case you're not sure what the dash means, this means a possessive item. For here, Bob's car, Bob owns the car. However, if you have that, there's more than one Bob. In fact, when I was about 17, we lived in Mount Gravatt in Queensland. And I was in the youth Sabbath school, and you would not believe the 7 of us in that Sabbath school, everyone's name was Bob. And when the pastor who was taking the class would say, "Now, what do you think about that, Bob?" And we'd all speak up. Now, Bob's Bible, there would have been 7 Bob's Bibles there. That means there's lots of people there whose name's Bob, and there are lots of them, and they each have something. But she wanted her Mother's Day to be named like this, because that is the singular. In other words, every mother is to have her special day, rather than just being a day where all the mothers get flowers. She wanted to make sure that, that was the spelling. And the spelling like that tells us that she wanted each mother to realise that it was her day. So when it comes to tomorrow, men, it is her day. She will do the washing, she'll do the you will do the preparation, you'll do the washing, you'll do the cooking, and leave it so Monday she can clean it up. So when it comes to Mother's Day, that is the correct spelling, because each mother has her day. So I have 5 statements today, which I'd like to take you through. And each of them have a specific importance in what I'm trying to say. Theodore Hesburgh was a Catholic bishop in New York, and his statement was, the most important thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother. I think that is extremely important. You've heard of Tim Keller. Maybe you haven't heard of Tim Keller. He's a pastor in America, one of the mega churches, which is built from just a handful of people. And he was reflecting at one of the conferences I went to, he was reflecting on how they developed a culture within their own family. He wanted to make sure that the mother of the family was honoured not just one day a week, but regularly through the week. And so what he decided to do was to tell each of their children to stand behind the chair that they would sit on to have their meal until their mother came and sat down. And when she sat down, they all sat down. And he did this to try and instill within them that she was not the head of the house, but she was the most important person in the house. Because quite often food is prepared, it's gulped down, and mother sort of gets what gets left over. I do recall in our home, food would be put on the table. We wouldn't say grace until mum was seated. So, I mean, each of you, I'm sure, have some sort of cultural activity to begin a meal. To him, that is to Hesburger, he was trying to say, even though he wasn't a married man, he was trying to say that in his observation, those people who treat their mother with respect and kindness and grace are usually those families that seem to be together. And one of those things pointed out is that she ought to be the queen of the home. So that is the first statement. A Catholic bishop, a single man, and lived in New York. The second, or should I say, while we're talking on that, remember the 10 Commandments. It said, honour your father and your mother. And I'm not sure exactly what the next of that sentence means, but my take on it is that you will have a life that is free from bickering and strife, because that was such a well-known quality that was demonstrated in the Old Testament. There were a lot of fighting and bickering and adultery and unfaithfulness. We see that in quite a few of the biblical stories. And here, the 10 Commandments says, honour your father and your mother, that you might enjoy your life and have it for a long time. The second is from Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling was a British poet, writer, and when it comes to his religion, he says, I'm a Christian atheist. Now, I don't know how that works. Probably Christian by culture and atheist by belief. But there's a lot of discussion as to what he really meant, because, you know, writers quite often you have to sit and study them, like Shakespeare. You have no idea what he's on about. But here Rudyard Kipling made this one statement: God couldn't be everywhere, so he invented mothers. Now, I'm not sure about his theology, but I do understand a little bit of what he's trying to say, is that beyond his dodgy theology, he sees that the first sight that a child sees is his mother. I watched a doco once about a certain kind of bird that the first being it saw, it identified with that being as being their parent. And the guy who was doing the documentary, who was the actual owner of, I thought it was a duck or a goose or something like that, but whatever the bird was, it actually followed him around everywhere until it became a bit older and realised how to get its own food. But he had to provide for its food, its place to sleep, and the whole shooting box. And when he went, because he used to actually have a microlight, when he went flying, the birds would fly along beside him. And so it is one of those things that the first face, the first picture of God that a child gets is probably through his mother or her mother. The concept of inventing mothers, I'm not sure that that's accurate either. But Kipling, I think, was trying to say that mothers are the first face of God that kids would see. And so in that regard, parenting is or mothering is an extremely important quality. The neuroscience these days tells us that the way a male thinks and the way that a woman thinks is physically wired different in the brain. There are different chemicals and different things that happen in a woman's brain and happen in a male's brain. And because you're male doesn't mean to say you're any lesser of a person. But today we honour mothers because what it seems to be is that mothers have that quality which we all say is a mother's love. And I've told you before, when I go to visit people in prison, usually the person there is the mother, because mother's love is quite often unconditional. So Kipling, dodgy theology, but I think the meaning that he has beyond that dodgy theology is that when a child identifies with a mother, he or she is the greater for it. This well-known author who has created a lot of music and songs and lyrics, Anon, came up with this: life doesn't come with a manual, it comes with a mother. Now, if a mother has a heart of gold and a steel spine, she'll know what this is all about. Because quite often, if you want to be a good mother, you have to really chart a way which you're not trained for. It is the most single large investment you make that you never trained for. No one has ever trained to be a parent. You don't have a trial run and say, well, get rid of that kid and start again. Because when the child comes, it's your time to step up. I meet so many ladies, mothers, who beat themselves up because they're not as good as they should be, and I look at someone else who seems to have it all together. I have a daughter-in-law who's she's a spice of life. She's a great kid, a mother of 2 boys, and her first child was ideal. He'd smile when the camera went in front of him. He would go to sleep when he was told to sleep. He would come to the meal table and she said, I don't know what all this problem is about parenting. I just say and it happens. Well, she reckons if 1 kid is really good, maybe 2 will be even better. So she had a second child. And guess what? This child is the exact opposite of the first child. And she got to a point where she was tearing her hair out and getting all depressed and upset. And I said, hey, don't beat yourself up. We had 3 children, and you married the one that gave us a hassle. So what do you expect? It runs in the family. And every time something goes wrong in that family, guess what? She brings me up and tells us it's my problem. I said, no, lady, you married him. I raised him. And I listened to him talking to his wife, and it's the same sort of language that I used to talk to my wife with. He said, and it's quite uncanny that he's taken the same language, the same way, and he loves her the same way as well. So yeah, when things don't go right, mums, don't beat yourself up. Learn from the experience and take it on the chin. I have never been a mother, but I've lived with one. all my life. I changed my ways with my elderly mother, and she said, well, I looked after you for 25 years, you should now look after me. And she even asked permission, can she do stuff? And it's almost like role reversal. But life doesn't come with a manual, it comes with a mother. And mothers have this sixth sense about how things are going. So I don't know where it comes from, but chemically, I believe it happens in the brain. And the brain doctor reckons that's how it is. Well, the next statement I'd like to make is from Milton Beale. He is a Jewish comedian who lives in America. And he said, if evolution really works, how come mothers only have two hands? The idea being that we all know that mothers seem to have this ability to do multiple things all at once. They call it multitasking. You know, you can stir the pot, have the kid on the shoulder or the hip, and answer the telephone and tell someone to sit down and behave, and tell the husband to come and give a hand, and you can do all those 5 things all at once. But is that really what Milton Beale is really saying? I think he's really saying that mothers are the ones who not only caress, but also provide. They provide care and love and a balanced home. They provide the food. The father might earn the money to provide the food, but she's usually the one, even in today's equality society, where we should actually have differences or not have different roles. Even today, 80% of the women say they do most of the homework, even if they are professional people as well. So while Beale is making a humorous comment about mothers, he's really trying to say, I think, that mothers are the ones who really do the providing around the home. The last one. Now, we can say all sorts of nice things about mothers, but motherhood is difficult. I've seen mothers in tears, not because of what's happened with the husband, but what has happened with the children. Mothering is one of those things that you need to hang in there with. Gloria Estefan was a Cuban American who is a performer, and she describes herself as a lapsed Cuban Catholic. And she was educated and raised by Catholic parents, but she's walked away from that. But she made this comment: motherhood is difficult and rewarding. You know, I was asked once, what is some good advice for parents? Because they hadn't had a child yet, and I think I thought to myself, goodness me, what would I say? And I came up with the statement, you need to be consistent and predictable. Consistency and predictability give a child the boundaries that they need. Every child we know needs boundaries. And if there are no boundaries, there is a sense of instability with younger children. If you are consistent, you are then therefore predictable. If there's certain language that is not tolerated in the home, every time you need to pick it up. I look after 3 grandchildren on a regular basis, and they test the patience of the saints. But when my daughter talks to me and she says, and you can hear that groan in the voice, I said, look, whenever we take them out, most people say, aren't they well-behaved kids? I said, you're doing a great job. Don't beat yourself up. Just be consistent and predictable. When a child knows how a parent will act, then they know that is their boundary. And one other thing, you don't not necessarily have to be their friend. You are a parent, and parenting not only provides direction, but it provides identity. And as a parent, sometimes you won't be liked, guaranteed. Because sometimes you have to pull them up. And I recall in New Zealand, I gave my middle son the wooden spoon. In those days, wooden spoons were allowed, and they were very effective. So I gave him one good wallop, and that sent him in a tailspin, and he eventually settled down. But within an hour after me getting into him, it had been forgotten, because he knew that it wasn't out of revenge, but it was out of care and love. Jan once in New Zealand tried to get into him too, but he went round and round in circles, and she couldn't lay the spoon on him. She started laughing, and he started laughing, and the wooden spoon was put away and never was used again on any child, big or small. My father, in fact, had his last belting from his mother on his 21st birthday. That was the world he grew up in. The world I grew up in, the strap or the cane was used, and the world that your children will grow up in, you can only browbeat them and use your words to intimidate them. And the cane is far better. Get it over and done with, instead of having to have your silly corners or your, what is it? Yes, naughty corner. Yeah, that's the one. But yeah, I honour all of you mothers, because it is often up to you to be the cornerstone of the home. Many of you are the glue that holds families together, seen and unseen. And so we give you thanks and honour you today in what you do. Those are the 5 things I would like to comment on today. Motherhood is difficult, but and Estefan says it's rewarding. When you see your child in public, or when you see them behaving the way they ought, when you see them standing up for what they believe or what they have as a value, you know that something good has rubbed off. Mothers are the ones who often provide the care and the love and the nurture. It is within their chemistry that it seems to be that is how it is. I don't like his theology, but I love his statement. Mothers are the ones who put it together. And the most important thing, fathers, that you can do for your children is to love their mother. As a role model, you'll provide them not only the mother, but also the daughters will have a high standard to which they will only tolerate certain behaviours. So today I would like to let you know that sometimes you're alone as a mother. Sometimes you're not the flavour of the month. And sometimes when things aren't going well, you feel like things have all gone wrong. But the identity which you give your child and the aloneness sometimes that you feel is exactly what Jesus must have felt like when he was here on earth. He was here to provide us our identity, the true identity that we have in Jesus. And he was here not only to provide our identity, but also the thing that we most desperately need is a new identity in Christ. And so today we're going to finish off by, and there'll be a discussion after this, but we're going to play the song In Christ Alone. It's about 20 years old, this song. It was created by an Irishman and an Englishman. One was the lyricist and the other was the melody writer, Stuart Townend and Keith Getty. And Getty was really upset about the lightweight songs that were being created within the Christian church about 20 years ago. And he and his mate Stuart Townend, they started a bit of a conversation between themselves, not realising that this song would become one of the songs that could either be played by a band or in a cathedral. It had the same sense of grandeur as well as intimacy. And today I'd like, as we play it, for you to see what you can find within it that gives us our identity and the aloneness that we have in Christ. Thank you, Jeremy. Well, thank you for being there. As you've sort of heard the things that have been said and seen things that have been screened, have you had any inspirational thoughts come to you, or you've learned something new, or there's something you'd like to say?
Why are you ready then if you're not doing Guys, okay, guys, Emily, can you please stop making
I don't know who that was.
Who's that?
Hey Bob, it's Peter here.
Yeah.
Like great talk and good sentiments, and our thoughts go to those people who don't have any mothers, and particularly on behalf of the Three Angels board, I just want to let everybody know that we're having our end of financial year fundraiser on June 20. And what we'd like is that this week, coming out on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram, we're going to be sharing all the details of that. And so if everybody can share that on their Facebook pages and Instagram feeds, I mean, it's a great way. Those kids over there in Nepal don't have mothers. And it would be a great time of year, I think, for us all to support them. And particularly on June 20 yourself, tune in. We're going to do something online. And so it's going to be the equivalent of what we used to do in the church, like on the afternoon of Sabbath. And so that will be online on June 20.
So June 20 is the Sabbath?
Yeah. And so just watch for the stuff that comes out this week. We've got a group helping us to promote this and run it. And so just watch for those details. And if everyone can just share it and get the word out there, that would be great.
Sure. Are there any comments you'd like to make regarding the topic that we have covered? Francine.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. And I'm one of those that lost my mother and my grandmother that raised me very early. I was 7 when my mom died and 19 when my grandmother died. But I just want to acknowledge women who are mothers, because it's such a big role. And I just am so grateful for the ones in my life that stepped in. I have a lot of spiritual mothers who stood in when my grandmother, especially, when my mother passed away, my grandmother was there. She could have put us in foster homes, but she took 4 of her daughter's children and raised them. And I want to acknowledge people like my grandmother, who are blood relatives and who are not, who step in to provide the love of a mother and the love of God. And I want to honor all my Christian sisters online today. Some of us have had children. I never had the privilege of giving birth to a child, but you know, I'm so grateful as a stepmother today that, you know, Adam and Nathan, whom I could shower with the maternal instincts. And, you know, I also want to acknowledge all mothers of fur babies, because they need love and nurture too. So happy Mother's Day, moms.